So I'm assuming you've now had a go at this question yourself. If you haven't, go do it now. I mean it. You will learn more by trying it yourself first. I'll wait. Okay, assuming you have now done that, let's have a look at what the result is. So I end up with a graph that looks like that. There's an asymptote here at y equals 0. But there's also a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. The y-axis is another asymptote. How did that happen? Well, as x approaches 0 from the left, I've got 1 over a very small negative number. So I've got a very large negative result, a very large negative. And as I approach 0 from the right, then x is very small but positive. So I end up with a very large positive fraction. So I end up here. This is an example of a discontinuous graph. This is a discontinuity. This graph is not defined at x equals 0 because I can't divide by 0. But as I approach from one side and as I approach from the other side, I actually get two different results. One is negative, very large, and the other is positive, very large. So this graph, the hyperbola, has two asymptotes. What happens if I scale it? Instead of 1 on top, I put a letter A. So there's the graph I just had. If I increase that number, look what happens to the hyperbola. It remains symmetric, but it moves further away from the origin, further away from the asymptotes. If A is still positive, but less than 1, it just gets closer and closer and closer to there. But what happens if it's negative? Well, it's going to flip whether the result is positive or negative. So it's going to go into the other quadrants. So a positive hyperbola, actually I'm not sure that is really a term, maybe I shouldn't use it. Hyperbola where the fraction here, the constant on top is positive, is in the first and third quadrants. But when that's negative, it's in the second and fourth quadrants. But again, the scale, as the number increases, we get further and further away. Is there anything else I can say about a point on that graph? How can I work out what the value of this is? How can I work out how close this graph is to the origin? Well, I mean, I can put in any number of points if I want to. I can work out x at 1, 2, 3, etc. But when x equals 1, my value here, my y value, is going to be a, because it's a over 1. So if a is 3, then my y value at 1 is 3. And that works even if it's negative. If my a is negative 5, then my y value at 1 is negative 5. And it's symmetric, so at negative 1, it's plus 5. So that helps you draw the hyperbola in the right place.